Hey, everybody, welcome to the Rhett Sever podcast. And this evening, our guest is the amazing artist who happens to be named Amazing G. And she's a musical artist, and we'll be talking about her new music at the end of the podcast. But first, I think it's important because I think she is an important artist and guest to have today because I met her at a open mic, one of the few physical open mics actually in the city that's, so socially distanced and everything. Um, but I was there and we kind of connected after through social media because I thought she was just a really great artist and who had a very interesting story because I think her story, her specific story, um, when she, explains to us and tells us her life story, specifically, about where she is on the sexual spectrums, it will help, enlighten and explain to people, and educate people. And I think, hopefully in learning her story, people can understand, um, sexuality better, I think. And hopefully that can bring more positivity into the world instead of you know anything else. so um so Grace, she also goes by Grace and she'll explain everything like that also. But Grace, so tell us your journey that you have gone through in terms of um you know how you were born and um what different circumstances, nature, nurture brought you to, you know, basically what happened to you and, um, how you went and came back and all that kind of thing. It's a very interesting story, and I think people will really think it's interesting.
Great. Well, first, I'm happy to be interviewed and I'm glad we connected. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so I was born a biological female. And growing up, I liked male clothing. so I was tomboyish, very tomboyish. And then very happy with myself, although my upbringing, uh, I went to 9 years of parochial school, and that was traumatizing in its own way because I had to wear a uniform. I couldn't wear what I wanted to wear, so I had to wear a girl's uniform. But I remember, during my playtime, I would play with the boys, ride big wheels, ride bikes. And then when puberty hit, hormones are very powerful things. So, I have dated men and women, and then a part of my life being asexual, actually, since the end of 2011. And then just coming out again, you know, as a gay woman, but having masculine energies. And the reason for that is because I've always had these male and female energies as a child. I just didn't know what it was, and it wasn't brought to my attention. My parents didn't know what it was. They knew about gay and lesbian, but they had no idea about a child being both male and female energy. So as I got older, I just put that aside and said, I'm going to be in the straight world. That's where I won't belong. That's where my family wants me to belong. And I did the straight world thing for 4 years. And that was obviously I never got married. I don't know, I just can't fall in love with a man. It's just not happening. Um, but I do get along with men because I can think like them sometimes. And I also can think like a woman sometimes. And so I thought that I really was a man at one point in my life. And I said, gee, I was in the lesbian community for 9 years. That's when I got out of the straight community. But I always felt like not extremely feminine, but not extremely masculine. And then I realized, and I wanted to do non-traditional work. When I look back, I laugh. I went to automotive school. Yeah, me, 5'2.5", 26 pounds, and going to automotive school, like one of only a handful of women. That was in my early 20s, and it was fun learning how to do my own spark plugs and oil changes. Uh, but it wasn't fun because I got sexually harassed in school by a couple of teachers. So see,
Wow.
that's a problem. So, I faced my share of sexual harassment too. And I remember one time being on the subway and this guy touched me and I yelled at him and he ran out of the subway car. So, it happens all the time. Just, you just have to say, okay, it's not easy being a woman. You know, women are women are definitely different than men.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, sexual harassment shouldn't be condoned by anyone.
Right.
And unfortunately, this happens a lot. You know, it's harassment is still alive and well. So anyway, getting back to the whole transgender stuff. So there probably was a part of me that wanted to live as a trans man so that I could hide myself and also live life as a guy and date straight women, because that's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to be this straight guy. I still want to be a straight guy. I said, in my next life, I'm not going to do this again. If I want to come back, I want to be 6'2", not play football, but a straight guy. So I decided that I was going to transition and live as a trans guy after living as a gay woman for 9 years. And I had a girlfriend at the time for 3 years, and I told her that, this isn't working for me. I'm feeling like a guy, and this isn't working for me. And she understood, and she's a great person. This is like a long time ago, because I don't want to tell you my age, right?
Okay.
Trust me. This is what happens when you go through a second puberty. I was living as a trans guy for like 15 years of my life,
Mm.
and it wasn't working for me. Now, was I genuinely transgender? No. But are there genuinely transgender people? Yes. I believe that. I met a lot of transgender people.
Right.
I met a lot of gay and lesbian people, and there definitely is something intrinsically different within the individual. And I think it's your spirit. And I didn't know that what I really was a two-spirited individual, where I just got confused and thought, if I'm not happy, living in my female body, I'm just going to live as a man, but obviously not a cis man, a trans man. So I had to well, I didn't have to. I just thought in my mind at the time, I'm going to get top surgery. All right. And I started taking testosterone. And I did that for a long time. And I went to grad school for that. I graduated from grad school and in a degree in rehabilitation counseling. I've worked with people with addictions and substance abuse as a vocational rehab counselor. But at the same time, when I look back, I connect all the dots and I said, you know what? I was rehabilitating myself. So
Mm.
maybe, I'm not in that field anymore because I'm realizing that's not my passion, even though I do want to help people. But I think this is how I'm helping people, by
Yeah.
being very candid with you
Yeah.
and your audience, because maybe something that I'm going to say can help somebody. I don't know.
Exactly. Exactly.
Only they know.
Hmm.
And so I went through this, and it was very challenging. It takes a lot of emotional strength, first of all. I mean,
Yeah.
and to be very resourceful, like working two jobs to save up money to get your breasts removed. Today, I could, that could have been a down payment on a condo when I look back. And all the money that I spent on testosterone, and, I had I started getting facial hair, not as much as you, thank goodness, and started getting some chest hair. And then, so I'm living like this, and I'm facing discrimination because when they didn't know that I was trans, I got discriminated against because of my height. Okay, so men do get discriminated based on their height. It's a society thing.
Exactly. Yep.
I don't know how it is with gay men, although I had gay men hit on me. They liked me.
Right. Right.
I wasn't into them. I was looking for women. And that was very difficult because if the woman didn't know that I was trans, uh, she would tell me she only dates men who are 5'10" and taller.
Yep.
I was like, wow. And then if she, then when I told her I'm trans, she said, oh, that's not what I'm looking for. And,
Yep.
I mean, without being too graphic, there are ways to have a penis, but there are women who want the real deal. And, that's their prerogative, right?
Hmm.
So that was another reason why I was getting rejected, because I didn't have the I didn't have the plumbing that she was looking for,
Right.
but then, the men, there are men, cis men, who do date trans men. So I've met gay trans men. I just didn't identify as a gay trans man, although I did go on a couple of dates with men as a trans guy, see what was that like. And that didn't do much for me.
Okay.
So I'm back to looking for women, And so I was living as a trans guy, and it was very challenging because a lot of discrimination, and even in the workplace looking for jobs, you'd be surprised,
Right.
even tall guys would get the job over shorter guys. So there's
Yep.
sexism out there. I mean,
Yeah.
um,
Or
so
heightism.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
learned a lot about what it is to live as a guy, and go back to and living as a woman, and now where I am now. And it's not easy. It's not easy to be a man. It's not easy to be a woman. It's not easy to be LGBT. It's just not easy to be a spirit in a physical body, having to go through all these experiences that we're going through. And I think I have a good feeling that the more I trust myself and go within, that's how I realized I had to go back living my life as a woman,
Right.
because I was so unhappy living as a trans guy. And I didn't know that I could detransition because the medical community doesn't tell you that. I don't know if they don't have the knowledge or they want to make sure you're making the right decision. But I was
Right.
able
Or
to,
discourage it. Right.
yeah,
Because I bet it's because, they don't advertise it because it's probably, it's always like, a conflict of interest in terms, they probably see that it reflects bad on them, that
mm,
somebody is detransitioning as if they did something wrong. So that's probably why. Would you say that's probably why?
I would think they probably have their own agenda.
Right.
Yeah. Even when I went to the transgender support groups, they had their own agenda. Everyone was talking about who was going to get their top surgery. What surgeon, that was like, the latest topic. Who's going to do your top surgery?
Okay.
Who's going to do your bottom surgery? Uh,
Do you know
so
what? It's funny. I don't even, I
it
guess, exactly even know
is
what that
funny
means.
and tragic at the
Well, no,
same
in
time.
terms of, I've heard of that, but I actually never really learned what it means. I guess I didn't know if that meant, from man to woman or woman to man genitalia, or if it means the top as in the breasts.
Mm.
Or could you maybe explain what top and bottom surgery is? Because I actually don't even know.
Sure.
Like, yeah.
So, top surgery for a woman who wants to live as a man. Top surgery is just removing your top, removing your breast,
Okay.
having a
So
double
it does mean
mastectomy.
top as in this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then bottom surgery, you only have, well, there's a common joke in the transgender community, which is it's easier to dig a hole than it is to build a pole. And
Okay.
that's true because a man could have his penis inverted to have a vagina, okay? But if a woman wants a penis, there's only two options. Well, there's three options actually. The
Okay.
first one is, well, they're both, the first two are extremely painful, and not many trans men get this surgery because it's not perfected. It doesn't work,
Mm.
you know. So they take a piece of your forearm, they take muscle
Oh,
out of your
wow.
forearm. Yeah, and then they do a skin graft. It's all microsurgery to make you a phallus. But then you got to pump it up with like this straw. You put like a rod in it and then pump it up with air. So, and that's like a $60,000 surgery. And hello, I'm glad I didn't do that. And I kept my original plumbing because that's, I will. When I saw the pictures of these surgeries, it
Wow.
was very graphic. It was, it did not look good. So I don't know how these trans guys are. Maybe they're happy with it. I don't know. And the other one is the testosterone. Actually, without, I don't know how graphic I can get on this show,
Okay.
but let's just say that when a woman takes testosterone, synthetic testosterone, obviously, um, her plumbing enlarges.
Okay.
Okay, because the tissue that I don't know when gonads, they all start, I believe it's female, and then they go into become the male, depending on how much estrogen or
Testicle.
testosterone the
Okay.
fetus is bathed in. But it's made of the same erectile tissue. So a woman has erectile tissue, let's put it that way. And when she takes synthetic testosterone, that erectile tissue grows. You
Interesting.
see?
Okay.
So she's not going to grow an average size penis because she's not born a biological male, but the testosterone will make that tissue grow.
Okay. So
And
I have a question.
sometimes, sometimes it grows to like 2 inches. I've seen pictures of this, an inch and a
Okay.
half, without getting too graphic. And I don't,
Okay.
so that's another thing.
That's interesting. So that's growing on somebody who necessarily you're saying wasn't born with biological male.
Correct.
Okay, that's interesting. So would you say a hermaphrodite is
Hmm.
maybe has better chances since there's already maybe one already starting, they maybe transition easier since they're already halfway there,
Hmm.
right? Okay,
Yes.
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah. So I guess maybe all hermaphrodites would you say are trans?
Hmm. I, I wouldn't say they're trans.
So they won't necessarily
It's
want
very rare. Hermaphrodites are rare also.
right, right. Okay, right. There is that. But would you maybe say um right, like because I think where the confusion and where probably a lot of transphobia happens is because, maybe even people like yourself, where um, people may seem to think they're trans because
Mhm.
they're a mix of masculine and feminine, but they're not necessarily quote unquote trans, because trans is only a person who needs to transition, right?
Yes.
Right. So there's just, which is why we have the terms non-binary,
Yes.
um, pansexual, all these terms,
Yes.
because I think, um,
I didn't know about the label non-binary because back then when I was going to the support groups, and of course you have to see a psychiatrist who specializes in gender identity dysphoria, and that's the diagnosis that I received.
right,
He said you have gender identity dysphoria, and this could be helped with hormones. So after a year seeing the medical provider, the psychiatrist, he gave me the letters to get my breasts removed and to take testosterone after a year. And I just felt I needed more in-depth talking about, maybe if he would have brought up the issue of non-binary, maybe it would have helped me, and I could have not did what I did. I could have just stayed
right,
uh, me
right,
and just lived my life as a gay woman who was just
right,
embracing her male and female energies or gender fluidity.
right. Because I
Because I
think,
felt I had to be one or the other. And
yeah,
since I detransitioned, because that was a whole spiritual healing that I received. I mean, I tried so
yeah,
many. Let me talk about that too, because whatever you believe in, you can make happen. And I'm living proof of that. Your
nice,
thoughts do create your reality. Because if I thought in my mind that I was really a man trapped in a woman's body, I made it happen. I went and I made it all happen. I lived it. I lived it for
right,
15, 16 years.
right,
And then I said, enough is enough. I can't live like this anymore. I started looking into Gnosticism, and I started learning about, I started breaking away from, I tried shamanism, I tried Christianity. Well, I went to Catholic school, I tried a little bit of Buddhism. Um, and nothing was helping me. Nothing made me like snap out of this. You're not living authentic.
right,
You think you're living authentic, but you're not.
yeah,
So when I started, I've had a lot of supernatural experiences, and I don't do hallucinogenic drugs. Okay. But I am an advocate of medical marijuana. Okay.
okay,
So with that being said, uh, because I also was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, which I never had before, but the testosterone gave me such bad acne that I had to get Accutane. I had to take medication. So, and that caused some problems for me and other people who took it. So it's just been one thing after another. My body's been through so much,
wow,
psychologically too, being through so much. So, but I found a healer in 2012, and I went through this whole phase of celibacy from
okay,
the beginning of 2012. Now, I was still living as a trans man in 2012, but not happy. So I met another healer, and he talked about that I had a spirit and that I should go within for my answers. And he did energy work. And it was incredible because when I went to Catholic school, I was never taught that I had a spirit. I was taught to go outside of myself. And here I am now, after decades later, I meet someone who's telling me that I need to go within and seek my own divine spark.
yeah,
So I started learning about the Gnostics, and it's all about self discovery and self knowledge. And I know some people are not going to agree with what I'm going to about to say, But there's Gnostic Luciferianism, and Lucifer is not Satan. Not from the research I've done. They're two separate entities. So I believe in the light. Okay, and when I had a voice come to me in May of 2015, right as I was going to bed, and it said in a booming voice, and like I said to you, I don't do any hallucinogens, but if you are under stress, maybe sometimes you can hear things that aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I did grow up with PTSD, you know, in my family.
Okay.
So, it's nature and nurture. Let me just put that out there. It's nature and nurture.
Yep.
But if you're not getting the nurturing, then who you really are gets lost in the sauce. And so
Yep.
I had to find my way back to my authentic self. And that's the journey that I did. So then I heard the voice in 2015, right? 2015, I was still living as a trans guy. And this voice said to me, I chose you and you chose me. And I didn't know what it meant. And I was also suffering from depression because living as a trans guy, I didn't have much family support. And I just finished grad school and having a hard time with the career stuff going on and not being happy living as a trans guy. So I had a lot of pressure on me. And so I heard this voice. I didn't know what it meant. But then I started watching these YouTube videos about Gnostics, Gnostic Luciferianism, about seeking the light. And I said, you know what? Nothing else is working. Let me try this. So by the end of 2015, I woke up and I did meditation and I realized, go back to living as a woman, you're not transgender. And that's how the journey back to living as a woman began. It started with that voice. And then I had this epiphany within myself and going within and stop listening to other people outside of me telling me who I am,
Yep.
not listening to my father saying, be a CPA, not listening to my mother saying, you're a girl, you're not supposed to wear boys' clothes, not listening to the nuns in Catholic school that I got in trouble. And I'm still causing trouble. Hopefully good trouble, because I
Yeah.
want to empower people to go within and listen to their own spirit. You have a
Nice.
divine spark within you.
Yes.
And once I learned about that, in 2016, I told my doctor, I want to wean off testosterone. I'm going back to living my life as Grace.
Nice.
And he said to me, okay, it's going to take about a good year to get that out of your body. I'm like, it was a detox. I kind of went through withdrawals too, because I had to get a hysterectomy. That was another thing, that the testosterone caused me to have endometriosis. So I had to get a hysterectomy in 2011. And then,
Another meaning of toxic masculinity.
yeah,
Wow, that's
that
crazy.
was like, okay, well, I never wanted children. See, when I was young, I knew that, like, I would never be a mom, although I am maternal and paternal. I'm both.
Hmm.
So, and I'm also learning how to be my own mother and father. That's another thing that I've learned, because I didn't get the emotional needs met as a child. I got my physical needs met, my shelter, my clothing, education, but never feeling valued.
Yeah.
And when we don't feel valued, we're going to have self doubts
Yeah.
about who we are.
Yeah.
So I had to learn to stop doubting myself. I was also had a therapist, had different therapy, but I had to learn how to connect with my own spirit, because your spirit is your healer. So I said, all right, how am I going to do this? How the heck? I'm looking like a guy. How the heck am I going to go back to looking like a woman? So for the first time in my life, I went to an endocrinologist. which I recommend. If anyone is struggling with thinking they're transgender, before they do anything so extreme, I recommend you go see a very, very good endocrinologist. Get your
And
hormones level checked
what do they do?
because your hormones have an effect on your identity.
Hmm.
So if there's an imbalance, see, that's the whole thing. We have to go into homeostasis and we have to be balanced. So if you take, like for me, I probably wasn't balanced. I never seen an endocrinologist in my life until I decided to go back to living as a woman. I'm just, you know, it's just, I'm just making an educated assumption, that I
Yeah.
think if your hormones are off, you're going to feel a certain type of way, you know?
Yeah.
Hormones are powerful substances like drugs. I mean, right? If you take certain drugs, they're going to alter your thinking. So that's why they call them minds altering drugs. Well, hormones are also minds altering because I was very aggressive when I was um, living as a trans guy. I saw a difference in my aggressiveness,
Hmm.
and and now that I'm completely off testosterone, I calmed down. The reason why I calmed down is because I had to take estrogen again.
Oh, okay.
You see, so I I started my estrogen in February of 2017, and February 28th of 2017 is the official day that I detransitioned, going back to living my life as a woman, older and wiser.
Nice.
And I still have a lot to learn. We all do. I'm
Okay.
still
So,
I'm still learning about myself. And then I had to get laser hair removal, and that hurt so much.
oh wow.
I had to get laser hair removal. I thought I was going to get breast implants. I was like, oh, I got to get my tits back. So my doctor gave me a prescription for a mastectomy bra and breast prosthetics. So I had to go for a mastectomy fitting. And the lady said to me, what size do you want? I said, lady, just give me back what I had, a 36B. So I get these prostheses, right? And I've been wearing a mastectomy bra since 2017. And that was a trip, having to grieve the loss of my breasts. And then also having to live in my building where everyone knew me as a trans guy. And then I told the people in my building, I'm not really transgender. I'm going back to living my life as a woman. And so when I started getting laser hair removal on my face and my neck, I not as much as you, but it hurt. And some hair on the chest. It was very painful. I've been going to laser hair removal for 2 years.
Wow.
2 years. No, actually 3 years. I go for maintenance now. And I was so self-conscious. I was like, oh my gosh. I said, I have to go back on. What do I do now? Because I don't want to look full male again. So what do I do? So I went to the endocrinologist. We went on estrogen. But there are not many people detransitioning. So he didn't know what my face was going to look like.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I look very different now than I did as a trans guy.
Okay.
All right. So I went through this like androgynous journey,
Right.
um, because when I was weaning off, when I was detransitioning, I was only on estrogen for, let's say, 6 months. And in my head, I thought, okay, I'm a woman now. Maybe I'm really a straight woman. So let me go back and see if I can date guys again. Ah.
Oh,
Big mistake. I tried that. I tried that after 6 to 8 months being on estrogen, so I could look more, at least it was starting to look more feminine. But I had to work on my voice because my
okay.
voice, because I think I told you, Rhett, I'm really a singer.
Oh, right.
I'm a mezzo soprano, but when I started taking testosterone, my voice dropped into the male range,
Oh, wow.
probably like a high baritone.
Okay.
Um,
Interesting.
yeah, so I had to retrain my voice, and this
Wow.
is where it's at now. And I was self-conscious in the beginning, but now I'm no longer self-conscious because I'm realizing, well, I'm just both. And now I don't wear my bra. Like tonight, I'm not wearing my mastectomy bra because I'm feeling more comfortable in my masculine energy.
Okay.
So there are times when I don't wear it, and I have to joke about it now. I figured, okay, that was my journey. That was a learning experience. And I've learned a lot about sexism. I learned a lot
Yep.
about bullying because I was bullied in school.
Yep.
I've had classmates say to me, "Are you a boy or a girl?"
Yep.
I've had, so I was bullied in school. So I understand what it's like to get bullied. I had things stolen out of my locker. I had a leather jacket in junior high. I had a leather jacket. They used to call me Spike, and they stole my leather jacket. I had girls in the fifth grade gang up on me, a clique
Wow.
of girls.
Yep.
Okay, the same color as me too. All right.
Right.
So sometimes your own color can hurt you, you know?
Right. Because it's about the homophobia.
Yeah. And
Right.
I didn't, I liked girls, but I don't know. I never did anything to these girls. They just picked on me, you
Right.
know? And it was in public school because my parents put me in public school for 1 year. Once I got into the fight, I went back, they put me back in Catholic school. But my dad was nice enough to send me to karate lessons. And so I
Okay.
really enjoyed taking martial arts lessons.
Oh, cool.
And then I got in a fight with one of the girls in school. I punched her in her mouth
Wow.
and I went to the principal's office.
Mm-hmm.
So I got in trouble, but for self defense. And then I got in trouble in Catholic school because I was, they send you to church in Catholic school. Here I am in kindergarten and I'm talking in the church and joking around with my friends in my class. Well, the nun wasn't good. They were nuns back then. She didn't want to have anything to do with it. And so here I am. School was out. It was the summer. And I'm an Italian American feast because I'm Italian American. Well, that's another thing. I did a DNA test. See, just when you think you know who you are, go
Yeah.
get a DNA test. And
Yep.
then you'll have more surprises.
Yeah.
So here I am, 6 years old, out with my mother uh, at the feast in Brooklyn. And the nun comes up to me and my mother, and she yells at me in front of my mother and makes me feel bad in front of my mother, saying that your daughter was talking in church, laughing in church. You should, um, how are you? I don't know what she said. How are you raising your daughter? Whatever. So that was traumatizing. First
Yeah.
of all, you're being a little child.
Right.
Let the kids be kids.
Yeah.
So and then you grow up with that too. But I had on my dad's side of the family, there is a gay guy. Unfortunately, he passed away from AIDS back in the 80s. And then there's also a gay cousin on my dad's side, like a distant cousin. And I think it's genetic. I think there's a genetic component to being LGBT.
Yeah. And I mean, especially if it's going to be, I mean, theoretically,
Yeah.
if the population is anywhere 10 to 15%, I mean, it's possibly in everybody's family but it's interesting. It's like we can't have any statistics on it because of homophobia, a lot of people won't come out and say who they are. So we don't really know exactly,
Hmm.
how many people are gay. It's just
Yes.
theoretically, 10 to 15%. because of so many people are in the closet. It's
Mm,
interesting. But I think so kind of how I wanted to kind of sum up um everything is that you know, it's funny, like I have to say, like I believe because we're in this, this culture war
mm,
in this world now where um when really I believe it's a fact that what stems from all these problems, the root of it is, the transphobia, the homophobia, the sexism, racism. It can all be explained in terms of that is what causes all the problems, I think. So it's funny how like somebody will be transphobic and saying like, "Oh, that person's confused," when really ironically, what's causing the confusion is their trans and homophobia, right? Which is, since it's societal, since we grew up in a time where it was socially acceptable to be homophobic and transphobic. So that's very powerful when society is telling you something. Basically, when society is telling you that ignorance and hate on a subject is right, quote unquote, that's very powerful. And what I think is right causing people, quote unquote, to be confused, right? And so it's not that people are confused, it's people are only confused because of the hate and ignorance and homophobia, transphobia, right? And so I think, um, you went through your journey because you're trying to fit into this box that society wants us all to fit in. When really, if we're just accepted for who we are from the start, there
mhm.
would be no quote unquote confusion, right? I think. I mean, that's my opinion in terms of what I think is fact, which is such a funny thing to say because only because we're in like a culture war where for some weird reason we have to think these are opinions when really like you know just from my experience, I think it's a fact that it is people's ignorance which is at the root of our problems as LGBTQ um citizens. If we were just accepted for who we are, we wouldn't, I wouldn't have had to come out at 27 and even, you know, be able to admit in my own head, like, because I couldn't even admit in my own head till I was 27 that I
Mm,
was gay, right? And with the whole bisexual um, argument as well, it's like there are bisexual people, right? There's not a lot of at true bisexuals right in the middle of the spectrum, but it's funny because they have to live a bad rap because of all the homophobia is causing a lot of gay people to say they're bisexual when really they're just saying they're bisexual because it's easier in terms of their coming out. But it's funny, like I grew up where people would say, like in my conservative small town in the Midwest in Minnesota, people would laugh like, "Oh no, but bisexuals they don't exist." Ha ha ha. Right? Well, there's only that confusion because everybody wants to fit into a perfect little accepted box
mm,
because of our culture. And so if we're just accepted as we are, then we actually could get to the root of what the real demographics of sexuality are and understand them better. But homophobia is like creating this fog of confusion, which is funny. They think we're confused, but they're the ones confusing us with their hate and ignorance. So it's just kind of an irony. And the same can be with all bigotry. Like I believe
mm,
all things can be explained in terms of that, like all the isms. And so um I just think it's important to explain it this way to people because it wasn't explained to me this way, and if it would have been, I don't think I would have been as lost for so long. And
mm,
I think fundamentally explaining this I think can help people, because it took me so long to explain it to myself, because
Mm,
there's not a lot of places to go and read or watch something or listen to something that does explain
mm,
things like this,
mm-hmm,
because yeah, I think it's just so interesting how, unfortunately, then people's ignorance can then be confirmed, where it's like I was thinking about, you know uh a difficult situation, in terms of, like you were saying, how then you had to tell people in your building that
mm.
you're no longer trans, but
Right.
then it's like,
You want to hear a little story about that?
yeah,
Because I got a lot of stories, but I'm working on the book. I had
yeah,
to
oh
work on
nice,
the music. Maybe I'll work on the book. Who knows? But the music is
yeah,
first.
okay,
So yeah, they actually thought that I was a man becoming a woman.
oh wow,
And when I first walked out of the apartment wearing a dress and heels and not fully detransitioned like I am now, they couldn't even look at me. The door, it was so funny. They couldn't even look at me. They got my name wrong so many times. Do you know that I wore they, I like I said, even with my mastectomy bra on, I just got called sir. And yeah, I had to get something from the I had to get something from from the valet.
mhm.
They even after I told this man several times, I'm no longer sir. I told you I'm back to being Grace. Just the other day he called me sir, and you know what? I didn't. I just let it go. I just let it go because I said, okay, let him call me sir. It's fine. I'm embracing. Then I'm embracing the male in me.
Right,
What am I gonna do? You
right,
know, uh, it's like it doesn't bother me. But
right,
but I'm gonna tell you, 9 times out of 10, everybody says miss.
okay,
But for a while there, they used to call me sir over the phone because I still sounded male over the phone.
okay,
I don't know how I sound now. I go back and forth. My voice dips and peaks like we all do. But I so that was quite a journey. So the laser hair removal, and then you can get. Thank goodness I didn't lose my hair because there are trans men. They lose their hair because of the testosterone. But I did
oh,
develop some male pattern baldness, which I'm not happy about. Um, and I'm not about to get a hair transplant anytime soon. I don't have a bald spot, thank goodness, but there was some changes in my hair texture, and I have naturally curly hair.
yeah, but what are you trying to say? What's wrong with that? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, for
I'm just
me,
kidding.
I would have been I
No,
would have
I
been
know
very upset if that
it
happened
is,
to me.
right,
So I've been working on some just being on the estrogen kind of softened me up. It's
hmm, right,
softened because that's what estrogen does. That's
yeah,
why women look soft. It's the
yeah,
estrogen. So I take estrogen replacement therapy, and it prevents hot flashes and all that nasty stuff.
okay,
So I
um,
take that, and
yeah,
you know, and then detransitioning at my gym. I
oh, right,
and then changing my legal documents all over again.
oh, wow,
And
oh,
then,
because of your name,
yeah, and then having to take a picture again for the driver's license, and
oh,
then having to buy women's clothes. I donated all my men's clothes, and now
oh,
I'm like, damn, I should have kept a few of those blazers, because sometimes I want to mix it up.
feel, yeah, because depending on how you feel, like you were
Exactly.
saying, yeah,
When I go to my gym, I wear my bra. I wear my second because I just don't feel comfortable walking around the gym that I detransitioned in without my mastectomy bra. So
okay. So what name did you go by?
I went by the name Ray.
Ray. Oh, that's okay. Interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Right,
because
because Ray's kind of in grace.
exactly.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah. So I
Um,
didn't pick a name like Frank or David or, you know,
right.
I think because a part of me really felt like I'm not totally sure I'm really trans, but I
Okay.
went through it anyway and I had a lot of anxiety. So
Uh-huh.
usually when you're living in your truth, you don't have a panic attack. You don't
Right.
have anxiety. But when I,
Right.
right? But I
Yeah.
did, and I that was a red flag, and I told that to the doctor, and you know, I went through with this. I went through with this, and a little too longer than I would have liked.
Yeah.
Um, but now uh, I go by female pronouns. I know you can go by pronouns they and them, but that's not necessary for me because when I'm feeling more in tune with my masculine energy, because Grace is a feminine name.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take the C out of the name Grace, you're left with gray. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So I feel like a gray when I'm in my masculine energy.
Oh, okay.
When I'm more in my female energy, because I do own dresses, and but I don't wear them that often unless it's a special occasion. And then I'm feeling more comfortable as Grace. But then when I'm in my masculine energy, it's gray. And it's interesting why it's gray. Grae, right?
Uh-huh.
But if you mix the colors, black and white, you get gray.
Right.
And yin and yang is black and white.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know, coincidence? I think that everything happens for a reason. And I just had to figure out who I really was because nobody was going to tell me. That all came from me. So I'm telling you, when you seek the light, you get the wisdom, and wisdom
Yeah.
wipes out the ignorance because it's the
Yeah.
ignorance that keeps us in the dark. And out of
Yeah.
the darkness comes the light. I was ignorant. I was walking in darkness so many years. And
Because
then
you thought you had to listen to society.
and my
Which
family,
we all think when we grow up, we think, oh, society's correct. We have to listen to them. But then we grow up and right, you have to go to where you went to for them to tell you, listen to your inner being, not society, right?
mm-hmm,
And that's how you found your way, is
mm-hmm,
you had to block out society's preconceived notions of what's correct so
mm-hmm,
that you could learn for yourself what's correct. And I
mm-hmm,
think that's what people ultimately have to do. And
mm-hmm.
so society has to just learn to accept people for who they are
Yeah, I mean,
and
as long as
stop.
you're not hurting anyone,
Yeah.
you know, you know,
Nobody asked to be born the way they're born.
right.
It just happens, right?
Unless it's but then again, it could be a spiritual thing. Like
Right.
I could have incarnated into a gender fluid spirit. I'm two-spirited person.
Yeah.
And there are other two-spirited people on the earth. And I live in a Western culture. If I was living in a Native American culture, they would honor me
Yeah.
because they see me as a healer, as a medicine person. And I'm like, oh, no wonder I'm into all my herbs, like I got my essential oils, I'm into all
Yeah.
this because I'm a healer.
Well, right.
I'm a
They
healer. I'm
embrace
a light
that.
bearer.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
came. That's why I'm here. That's why I went through all this because I
Yeah.
shed the blood, sweat, and tears,
Yeah.
not just for myself, but for other people.
Yeah.
And now they can just look at what I did. And I call myself Amazing G as an artist, not because I think I'm an amazing singer songwriter. It's because of everything that I went through on the journey, and I'm still alive to tell you about it. And
Yeah.
that's why, and my journey amazing. And there's so many times that I put my life in danger as a trans man. Even as a woman, there were times when I was younger and naive, I put myself in dangerous situations. I'm lucky I'm here. I'm
Yeah.
lucky I never, you know what I'm saying? Because there's
Yeah.
hate crimes as well.
Yeah.
And, yeah, just
Yeah.
there's
I,
a lot to say. But the thing is,
yeah.
go within. You want to win? You want to win the battle of internal conflict? Go within to win.
Nice.
And
Because
ignite your courage. I have a Facebook blog called Igniting Courage.
oh, nice. Check that out.
My Instagram is Go Within to Win.
Okay.
And I just finished my first EP
Oh,
that I
yes.
should have been. I was in the music, going into the music industry 30 years ago, but that got sabotaged for a lot of reasons.
Wow.
Um, Family related, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
That's in the
Yeah.
book. However, it's all good because
Yeah.
look at all the material, you
Right.
know? I'm like,
Exactly.
thank you. I think I thank my parents now because look at me.
Yes.
I've
I do
taken
the
this.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's going from being a victim to your own hero.
Yeah.
And
With
that's
the
what it's all
story.
about. Self-mastery.
Yeah. And we wouldn't have this story if it wasn't for society's negativity. So it's almost like we have to see negativity as a gift as well.
Yeah, because people like us were helping humanity evolve.
Yeah.
And that's the goal, to get into that Christ consciousness
Yeah.
that
Which is
we can
why,
evolve. But we're only
the,
going to evolve if we seek the light, because the light is the wisdom. You got
yeah.
to come out of the darkness. And the only way
Yeah.
you're going to go out of the darkness is you got to go within.
Yeah.
You got to really, it's a lot of hard work. It's such hard work. I've been working on this for over 4 decades. I've
Yeah.
been working on this.
And I think it's important, like what you were saying with the Native Americans, they're valuing somebody who has the two spirits, because if you
Mhm.
have both spirits, more of an equal, um, double side, that's very valuable in terms of how much wisdom somebody's going to have when they're experiencing both masculine and feminine, because they're going to be able to teach society that sexism is wrong, because when you're both um, parts of the sexes, you realize the value that both have and why one shouldn't be, quote unquote, seen as inferior,
Hmm.
which is another thing I was going to talk about. There is no such thing as a inferior demographic.
Hmm.
It's only, you know, certain individuals may seem like they're, inadequate, but we have to see people as individuals, not as a part of a demographic. We all just happen to be born under all these different demographics, but um, people are not representatives of their demographic. It's just random. People are successful or failures based on their individual circumstances. And if there is any illusion that there is, inferior, quote unquote, demographics, it's because of people's hate and ignorance
Hmm.
in the world that is creating that false illusion.
Hmm.
And people have to see that their own hate and ignorance is the problem. It is
Hmm.
not because people are inferior or confused. It's the hate and ignorance that is creating that illusion. And I think that's the one of the enlightening things I've learned in life, which has especially become even more crystal clear this year in terms of what has happened, through the whole pandemic and
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter and everything.
Hmm.
I've had to explain this to people a lot because I think it is what is going to bring us into the light, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so yeah, I just think that's very important, and which is why I see your specific story as somebody who, you know, went on a journey and came back with a lot of wisdom because um, society confused you. People are not confused as the way they are. Society is putting this on us, and we have to um, educate society, right? We can't let society put us in perfect little boxes because that's not the way it works.
Now, society will perish for lack of knowledge. And
Yeah,
so when you go within and seek your own divine spark, you're above society.
yeah,
So I'm just at a whole different level now. And
yeah,
when I look at that, I'm like, wow,
yeah,
that's deep.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
That just shows you that the spirit within you is greater than the spirit of society in the world.
yeah. And what's interesting about that is that um, it's funny how I've also realized, like, especially like when I, do marijuana as well, where,
Medicinal.
getting high on edibles,
Yeah.
I've
Your
learned,
sister is a great baker, by the way.
yeah, thank you. And so, you know, I've learned, you know, with, mind altering substances that, you know, in that expansion, you learn that, wait a minute, we can't completely condemn society's ignorance because they're just doing what they think they're supposed to do,
Yeah, like
right?
your parents. Your
Yeah,
parents didn't have a manual on how to raise you.
right. Everybody's a lost child, right? And when you grow up, you realize you have one of those important enlightening things in life where you realize, like, oh, my parents, it's not their fault. Nobody knows what they're doing, right? Like, it's not their fault that they're lost children just like we all are.
Well, if they
Um,
went within
yeah,
and heeded and really obeyed the creator of their spirit and not the
yeah,
creator of their flesh,
right, yeah,
we would be evolving a lot faster.
yeah. But then it's important that you know, we are,
So it's important we learn from our mistakes
yeah, right. And so
and not
society's
repeat them.
mistake of being hateful and ignorant to
Hmm.
people who, in their eyes, see us as quote unquote inferior,
Right.
then we are learning a big lesson in that whole circumstance. So, in a weird way, it's almost a good thing that, you know, there is negativity, because the negativity is what is making us grow and evolve
Hmm.
and become enlightened. You need that tool. We can't completely, like, like, there's like cancel
Mm.
culture and completely condemning people, but we
Mm.
can't really do that. We have to let people just learn and be
Yes.
redeemed
Yes.
for learning from their mistakes.
Yes.
And if somebody in the past was wrong, we have to give them the chance to be right and educated.
Hmm.
And I think that's kind of what
Yes.
stories like yours do for people.
I
It,
would hope so.
yeah,
I don't know. I can help guide others. I am definitely an expert in gender
yeah,
guidance
yeah,
and identity. I mean,
yeah,
even people who go through a midlife crisis, that's an identity crisis.
yeah,
There's different types of identity crisis. It's not just the gender identity. You can have
yeah,
many different types of a crisis.
yeah.
Um, but
Well, yeah,
there's always gonna be the darkness. There's always gonna be the darkness,
yeah,
but there's always gonna be the light, and it's a choice, and we also have to embrace our shadow side too. See,
yeah,
that's another thing, because that's we have to learn how to integrate our shadow side, because
yeah. Like,
we're in
harness
this
it for good.
body, you know.
Yeah, we're trying to harness it for good instead of for the bad. We have to harness the bad to learn from it instead of creating more bad. And
Yeah.
also, I think what's important, what you were saying about the identity, is we have there's three sexual identities in
Hmm.
terms of the the identity of how people see themselves as male or female or a mix, or
Okay.
their gender identity, which is more concrete in terms of our genitalia, and then there's our sexual orientation. And what's interesting is I've learned that all three don't have any bearing on the other two,
Hmm.
in terms of you can be a mix on the spectrum. You can be anywhere on the three spectrums. You can be all kinds of mixtures of the three spectrums. And I think that's an important thing for people to learn as well, is, just because you're gay or straight or
Mhm.
male, female, or both, doesn't mean you can assume somebody's at that same place on the spectrums, on the other spectrums. We're
Mhm.
all a mix of spectrums, I
Mhm.
think. And that can go for any um, area of life as well, in
Mhm.
terms of all kinds of identity and situations in life. Is we're all a mix of all the spectrums, every aspect. You can't assume because somebody's one way that they're probably this way as well. So yeah, I think that's
And sometimes identities
important.
can change throughout your life, depending on
Yeah,
your upbringing, your perspective, your thoughts, your
and I think it
beliefs.
changes because we're learning where we are on the spectrum.
Mm.
Society wants us one on
Yes,
the spectrum, and
it's
the
a great
journey is
point.
finding where we actually are,
Hmm.
compared to where we wanted to start, or where
Yeah,
society wanted us to start.
yeah.
So
You're
yeah, I
very you're
think,
very insightful yourself. You
yeah,
know.
yeah, because I grew up,
Yeah.
in the closet, Mormon, and
Mm.
I had my own journey, and
Sure.
which is why I kind of recognize that your journey is important as well in enlightening
Thank you.
people. So I think that's a good place to end it. We should tell people
Yeah.
that you can check out um,
You could check out my debut single.
yeah, your
My
Amazing G's new music.
yeah, my debut single is called "No Shame in My Game,"
Nice,
and it's a motivational, empowering song, hip hop song, and I wrote the lyrics, and I also am the artist. I do the vocals and the vocal arrangement. You could find it on Spotify, iTunes Radio, Napster, Deezer, iTunes, and Amazon Music.
nice,
Uh, and I have three other songs. They're also on all those radio stations. It's an EP, it's three songs, and they're also empowering hip hop rap songs.
nice.
Drop Your Thoughts, Emerald's Lady, and Memories.
Okay, nice.
And I'll be coming out with my second EP in 2021.
Okay, cool.
And my video is in post production right now. My very first music video.
Nice.
We made a music video. It's called No Shame in My Game to go with the debut single. So that'll probably be out after the holidays.
All right,
I'll keep
nice.
you updated. I'll post that on
Yeah,
YouTube.
that's gonna be exciting to see. That's cool. So yeah, and also people can check you out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not on Twitter,
Okay.
but
All right, cool.
I want everyone to just embrace who they really are. That's
Nice.
all.
Yeah,
And it's the same thing. Treat other people the way you want to be treated.
exactly.
That's it.
Thank you so much, Grace. And
Thank you. And I hope your listeners got something of value out of it.
oh, I think
And
definitely.
I wish them all the best on their own journey.
Thank you so much. And this has been the Rhett Sever podcast. Thanks, everybody.